Good morning, Dave. How are you?
We're good, man. We are good, and it must feel good for you. Congratulations. Another historic landmark this past Wednesday in Queens. Over 20,000 fans at Arthur Ashe Stadium. So first and foremost, congratulations for everything that took place on Wednesday.
Well, thank you. It was a great night on Wednesday. It was the biggest crowd we've ever had, and it was one of the best Dynamites we've ever had. I think the match between Kenny Omega and Bryan Danielson is one of the best matches we've ever had. It was a really special way to start the AEW Grand Slam, and tonight on TNT, AEW Rampage Grand Slam, I believe is the most star-studded, packed 2 hours of TV we've ever done tonight on TNT. So I'm really excited for tonight's card. I think it's the most jam-packed card we've ever had.
Tony, I had my celebratory cigar after the show, and I made a quote that popped a few people. I love it when a plan comes together. What did you do? What did you do? What did you say to yourself when you looked in the mirror? Did you look at yourself and say, "Damn it, I did it"?
It was pretty great. Well, we're only halfway home. I mean, we had a great show, I think, on Wednesday night, and I put a card together that I believed would be the biggest TV week we've ever had, and it's been huge so far. I think to come in and have 5 straight weeks at number one on Wednesday night for AEW Dynamite is a dream come true. I mean, before this year, we had never been number one with AEW Dynamite for the week. We had finished everywhere from 2 to 10, but we had never had the number one spot until April 14th. And since then, we've had it a lot of times, including 5 straight Wednesdays. And that's really the goal every week. I mean, we've hit what would be my goal. I think you really, as long as you're at number one or competing for number one every week, that's ideal. Last week, Rampage actually finished number 2 on cable, and I would love it if we could win the week and finish number 1 with the AEW Rampage Grand Slam, or at least compete for that number 1 spot every week. And this is the biggest card we've ever put on a Friday night by far tonight. You know, to have the first match in over 7 years of CM Punk on TV, it's a pretty big deal for him to be wrestling tonight. And Powerhouse Hobbs is one of our top young stars. It's a dream match in many ways, and we're coming off the biggest dream match we could have put together, I think, on Wednesday, and tonight there's a lot more dream match action on the card for the fans to check out. And I really believe we've never had more star power in any 2-hour TV show than we have tonight on Rampage.
Wow, and that's saying something, because we've seen some big episodes of Rampage, but I think you're right. When you look at it's a 2-hour show tonight on TNT for AEW Rampage on a Friday night. But just the feel. I mean, and a lot of times, Tony, like, it's about the matches, and we'll get into that first match Wednesday night between Bryan Danielson and Kenny Omega. But I think, there's more to that in wrestling than just the matches. It's the moments, it's the feel, it's the crowd. And I think you got all those dynamics encompassed in what we saw on Wednesday and what we're going to see tonight on Rampage.
Absolutely. It's absolutely, really, we're in a great place right now. I think with our fans, with our wrestling, it's all coming together at a great time where every significant business metric in AEW is really peaking right now and just keeps climbing. So it's a great time for us, and it's a great time, I think, to be a wrestling fan, because the business is doing so well right now, and it's probably the strongest wrestling has been in over 20 years.
Well, think about that for a second. We talk about it a lot here, about how healthy AEW is, when we haven't seen anything outside the WWE be healthy in over 20 years. But how did it feel to be in New York City? And Tony, I'm an old school guy. I'm 50, so I grew up in the territory era. So, for forever, it was WWF and WWF and WWE that has dominated the tri-state area in the East Coast. Like, how did it feel for you to come to New York City and fill a stadium like Arthur Ashe? And you know what? We're not even talking about like a Madison Square Garden. We're talking about you have now cemented your own venue in Arthur Ashe this past Wednesday.
Well, it's pretty amazing. I think the Rampage Grand Slam was a huge success for us. I'm sorry, the Dynamite Grand Slam was a huge success. The Rampage Grand Slam tonight, I hope, is going to be a huge success. We're halfway home, and I'm very excited about what happened Wednesday. It's the biggest crowd we've ever had. It's the best reception I think we've ever had to anything we've done. And really tonight, the card is so stacked. You know, I held back in some ways for tonight, knowing we were doing a two-show card, putting 2 nights of great matches out there. I really wanted to put a lot into the second night, and tonight's show is going to reflect that. I mean, when you run down the card and look how many of our top stars are wrestling tonight on Rampage on TNT and how huge the matches are, it is pretty unprecedented to try and put 2 shows like this together. We've never done 4 hours of TV in 1 week, and I think it's pretty great so far. We're halfway home, and I really believe tonight's going to be a very special night for us.
And tell us, what else are we going to see tonight on Rampage?
Well, I mean, I brought up CM Punk versus Powerhouse Hobbs, which is a big milestone for, Mr. Brooks, Mr. Punk to have his first television match in over 7 years is a huge, huge statement, I think, and we're all looking forward to that. Also, the first time in many years that the Super Click, the Young Bucks and Adam Cole, have teamed together would be a big deal on any show. But for their first match in years to be against Christian Cage, Jungle Boy, and Luchasaurus on this huge night, that's a big deal. And that is going to be an awesome match.
Tony, we had Arn Anderson on earlier in the show, and he talked about the success of AEW, and obviously he brought your name up. And one of the words he used to describe you is approachable. You're very, very approachable to the town. I think you're very, very approachable to the AEW fan base. I mean, how does it feel for you for, somebody like Arn Anderson to describe you in that way?
Well, it means a lot. Of course I'm approachable for Arn Anderson. Arn Anderson's one of the greatest wrestlers of all time, one of the great wrestling minds of all time. And anytime Arn Anderson wants to talk to me, I'd love to talk to him. So I am approachable, but it doesn't just apply to a legend like Arn Anderson. I think for the younger wrestlers, for the crew and staff, I'm here. And if somebody wants to talk to me, usually it's okay. And, 95% of the time or more, when somebody wants to have a conversation, I'm up for it. And sometimes there is a line down the hall to get into my office and talk, but that's okay. I mean, I'm going to talk to everyone, and I try to visit everyone who wants to talk at TV. So I really appreciate Arn Anderson a lot. And I think there's a lot happening on Rampage tonight, but we could probably spend a few minutes recapping some of what Arn Anderson said today on your show.
Yes.
Also, he's a breath of fresh air.
I mean, Mark, we talked about it even before Arn Anderson came on. We talked about it on the show yesterday with Bully as well. Like, Cody got some boos from that New York crowd on Wednesday. And, it took some people by surprise. You heard a hint of it in New Jersey last week, but you definitely heard it on Wednesday. And Arn threw out the name. And Tony, this is almost like a poisonous word when it comes to sports to describe certain athletes. He used the word Hollywood to describe Cody. So I thought that was very interesting from Arn Anderson this morning.
It is very interesting, and it was very interesting. The thing is, Arn Anderson doesn't care if Cody wins or loses, the fan approval. I think he does, in terms of the booing and cheering, that's not what Arn Anderson's there to win. He wants to win the matches. And I think that's what he's talking about, if Cody's Hollywood time is going to affect the outcome of the matches, because Cody's got one of the best win-loss records in AEW, and has been really successful. And I think Arn is saying he's got to focus himself in the ring. And I hear what Arn is saying. We have a huge card tonight on Rampage, so I'll be making some matches. I have a lot of announcements also about what's going to be on Dynamite next week. that I'll add tonight on Rampage as well. One thing I'll chime in that I think is, really a fun match, and also will give Arn an opportunity for what he wants, to see Cody get back to basics and really focus on fundamentals. I think something that could be an excellent fundamental wrestling match, great technical skills by all four people involved in this tag match I'm going to make for Dynamite next week. I'm going to have Cody team with Lee Johnson against Dante Martin and Matt Sydal.
Wow.
Should be a great match. And Cody and Lee, I think Arn wants them in there with two of the best, and I think those are two of the best, Dante Martin and Matt Sydal, so that should be a great match. And again, Arn wants Cody to get back to the basics and not focus on the Hollywood stuff when he's in the ring, and I think that makes a lot of sense.
Man, Dante Martin is so unbelievably athletic. He's one of the guys that I see a great upside in, and he follows directions. You tell him something once, and he fixes it immediately. That's an unbelievable quality to have.
He's a great, great, great kid, and the upside on this guy is unbelievable. To be 20 years old and be a top wrestling star on national television, regularly wrestling on the number one show on cable on Wednesday nights. It's a big, big thing, and it's pretty remarkable how young Dante is and how far he's come already in AEW just in the past year. So it's a huge, huge card next week on Dynamite, but really tonight on Rampage, like I was saying, already we've established the most star-studded Friday night card we've ever put together, and I think the most star-packed 2 hours we've ever had. We've also got this huge lights-out match to close the show with Minoru Suzuki and Lance Archer, Suzuki-gun, coming back for some revenge on Moxley and Kingston. And that is just going to be a wild, wild scene tonight at Arthur Ashe Stadium to have Moxley and Kingston taking on Suzuki and Archer. Anything could happen in that match.
We talk a lot about the young talent here in AEW, Tony, and a lot of the talent that's kind of like AEW homegrown talent, or at least hit the mainstream because of AEW. Tony, there's no love lost between Thunder Rosa and I, but, Thunder Rosa, made an appearance on Dark before Dynamite this past Wednesday, and from what I hear, just a thunderous, excuse the pun, ovation for her. That's got to make you proud, because there are the mainstream stars that everybody knows even outside of wrestling, but now it seems like people that may have seen these stars for the first time on AEW are getting those types of reactions as well.
Absolutely. It's very, very cool, and it again reminds me of one of the peaks of the wrestling business 20 years ago, where top to bottom, everyone's getting over, and Thunder Rosa is really somebody who's closer to the top, in my opinion. She is one of our top stars. She's not had a ton of national TV experience before AEW, but absolutely, she's gotten herself over where she is one of the biggest stars on the card. And really, really excited about Thunder Rosa. Dave, I know you and her have had your issues, but she's a great person and a great star for us. And I'm very excited about her, and we'll hear from her tonight on Rampage, along with some of the other competitors from the All Out Casino Battle Royale who still have some beefs with each other. So we'll hear from Thunder Rosa along with two of the other competitors in that Casino Battle Royale and two of the top women's wrestlers in AEW. Also, Nyla Rose and Jade Cargill. We'll hear from all of them tonight. And speaking of some of the really exciting women's matches we've had lately, there's been an issue that's been ongoing with Penelope Ford and the Bunny teaming up again since that pay-per-view and that Casino Battle Royale. The Bunny had asked Ty Conti to join up with her, and they could try to make sure one of them won the Battle Royale, and I'm not sure if I was Ty, I would have trusted the Bunny in there anyway in that situation, but Ty said she wanted nothing to do with it. So the Bunny got somebody else to help her out, Penelope Ford, and the Bunny stole a win from Ty on Rampage before the pay-per-view, and then again Ty was looking for some payback, and she did get a win against Penelope, but Anna Jay was there when Penelope and the Bunny jumped Ty after the match. Anna Jay made a big comeback into AEW, and since then, Anna's been fighting for her friend. She got a big win against the Bunny this past week, and now Anna looking for more payback, I think, against Penelope Ford. After Anna got that pin against the Bunny, Penelope and the Bunny beat her down again. And really, I think Anna would like to put a stop to this thing once and for all tonight. So Anna Jay against Penelope Ford, I think, is another really big match we have on tonight's card. And also, speaking of their tag teams there with Ty Conti and Anna Jay and Penelope Ford and the Bunny, have an interesting situation with a couple teams. The Inner Circle and American Top Team, it's been getting very heated and intense with Chris Jericho and Dan Lambert. And Dan Lambert is a top figure in the world of MMA. Chris Jericho has brought in Jake Hager, who's undefeated MMA fighter and part of the Inner Circle. Chris and Jake taking on Scorpio Sky and Ethan Page, who are two of the top fighters in American Top Team now. Should be great.
Yeah, that's a big match tonight. Again, tonight on Rampage, 10 p.m. Eastern Time on TNT. A 2-hour Rampage. Speaking of TNT, you've mentioned it on Busted Open before, but now it's official. January 5th, Dynamite will move over to TBS starting on that date. More TBS in more homes than TNT. So I think this is a very big positive move for AEW.
Well, it's going to work out great. I think tonight you'll see Rampage on TNT, and Rampage is going to stay on TNT for the long term. Dynamite moving to TBS, I think it's win-win. First of all, it worked out very well for us financially, and it's great to be able to keep Rampage on TNT also, which has got really pretty similar penetration. It's a win-win for us, I think, to be across these two great networks. WCW, again, 2 decades ago, had some really, really good run on both networks. And to have that penetration, 2 separate audiences, I think is great. There is a sports audience on Friday nights that TNT's got a little bit more history of sports, and there are some places where, frankly, after a Thursday NBA game, at some of the bars and sports bars across this country, where Friday night, they already have TNT on the TV. So I think it makes a lot of sense to have both networks in play for us. So I'm really excited. Rampage will be on TNT for the long haul, and very excited about Dynamite in January making that move to TBS. But both shows on TNT for a while.
We got to get in, because at some point, Tony, you and I have to do, greatest matches of all time, top 10 this, top 10 that, because I know you're such a historian when it comes to pro wrestling. We saw an instant classic Wednesday night between Bryan Danielson and Kenny Omega. That 30-minute time limit draw, old school. I used to grow up watching that on Georgia Championship Wrestling on TBS back in the day. I mean, had to be proud of those two wrestlers and how Dynamite started on Wednesday night.
Absolutely. Kenny Omega and Bryan Danielson had an all-time great match. I was really proud of that match and how it turned out, and absolutely, it was a big success, I think, in terms of getting eyeballs on the show. We've done 103 episodes of Wednesday Night Dynamite. 103 episodes of Dynamite. I guess some of them had been time shifted, but after 103 episodes of Dynamite, that was one of our top 3 highest rated shows we've ever done, which is really saying something. So one of the biggest things we've ever done since the debut. It was the second highest rated show since the debut, and it's a big deal. And those 2 highest rated shows we've had since the debut have both come since All Out, since the arrival of all these big stars, since CM Punk had debuted in the ring, and since Adam Cole and Ruby Soho and Bryan Danielson had arrived in AEW. So it's really exciting what's happening. We've had all-time highs for audience in recent weeks, and we're on a great trend. I think for me, tonight on AEW Rampage is the culmination of the biggest week of television we've ever done. And to be number one 5 weeks in a row on Wednesday night, I mean, who would have ever dreamed of it? And now we've had Rampage ranked number one in the past. Like I said, we were number two last week. The card is so strong tonight on TNT, and I think it's a really can't-miss show tonight for Friday Night Rampage.
Tony, I am so excited for tonight. Also, I'm so excited for the relationship between AEW and the Owen Hart Foundation. I had nothing to do with this, but listen, anything you want me to do related to that, I'm there for it. I do it on my off time as well as when I'm at work. I loved Owen. I wouldn't be here today talking to you if it was not for Owen Hart, 100%. And I will do whatever it takes. And I know that our fan base loved Owen Hart and will also participate. So I'm going to call on the nation here at Sirius XM to join us in whatever endeavors that you take us into.
Well, I really appreciate that, Mark. I always appreciate that from you. And this is going to be a tremendous, tremendous event. And it's a great partnership with Martha Hart and the Owen Hart Foundation. Martha is a very principled woman, to say the least. She's a very intelligent woman. And she thought long and hard about this, and we talked for a long time about this. I mean, I talked to Martha about this for over a year on a regular basis, and she put a lot of thought into it, and we put a lot of thought into it, and that's how this came together. She's a really good person, and I think she wanted to make sure we're good people too. And I really like Martha a lot, and I just can't say enough great things about the legacy of Owen Hart and how much it means to so many of us, and what a great opportunity this is to celebrate his life. We'd had this in the works for a long time, and the Owen, I think, can be a very special prize in wrestling. I think people are going to want to win the Owen, and I believe we'll really establish that as a very special thing in AEW, a really special annual tradition. So I'm excited to tell people more about that. I've got a few match announcements and a few big booking plans up my sleeve that I'm excited for people to find out about. And, that's all coming, I think, in due time. And the Owen Hart announcement's really, really big for us. So when we get through this huge night tonight on Friday Night Rampage, I think next week we'll have a lot of cool stuff when the dust settles. But I appreciate you saying that, Mark, because there was a lot of hard work. Chris Jericho introduced me to Martha, and without that introduction, I don't think this would be happening. So I really appreciate Chris, and going into his big match tonight, against American Top Team, just very thankful he made that introduction to Martha.
Well, you're building bridges, and that's what we need to do in this pro wrestling community. There's always a lot of negativity, but you're building some positivity, and I think Owen Hart, I mean, to have him back where he belongs in this world, in our community, I mean, thank you and congratulations on that. Seriously, Tony.
I really, really appreciate that, Dave. And I appreciate that, Mark, you also. It's going to be a great event, the Owen Hart tournament, and very excited about it. We're really carving, we've done a lot of these Tony times on Wednesday, and I also enjoy coming on here sometimes with you guys on Friday. And I'm really trying to build Rampage up as a strong show. I don't want anybody to think one show is stronger than the other. And this week, I really believe we put something iconic with Bryan Danielson versus Kenny Omega on Dynamite on Wednesday. And it was just a great card. When I looked down the Dynamite card, we haven't even talked about Sting's comeback. How great.
I know, there's so much.
Sting. He was so great. I mean, Sting and Darby against FTR was just one of the best tag team matches you're going to see. And there's so much good stuff on the card, Cody and Malachi. And obviously, Dr. Britt Baker against Ruby Soho. What a great world title match. Great main event. History-making main event. MJF versus Brian Pillman. It was a great card. And then to think how much is left tonight. It's like one of these two-night spectaculars. You know, our pay-per-views are one-night spectaculars. But to do
and
something
tonight, and Tony, tonight, Rampage, 10 p.m. Eastern Time.